thanks and to say that what the diaconate has grown to be, in my mind, in my 17 and a half years here, by drawing just a few things that you're aware of, but it might be good to consider again, perhaps. I knew that Chicago Archdiocese had the largest class of deacons, largest group of deacons of any archdiocese, I think, in the world, certainly in the United States, and we had most of them. For whatever reason, after the council, I think Chicago was very eager to institute all the reforms of the council, and the renewed diaconate was one of them, and so they went into it with gusto, and the end result is you. And I was very grateful to know that, because I had found in my own work that deacons were extraordinarily important. In different parts of the church, they used catechists, like in Africa, to do the work of deacons in many ways. And in a religious order, very often the brothers did the work of deacons, and many of them then were ordained deacons. But to have so many diocesan deacons was something I looked forward to. And when I got here, I found truly that most parishes, but not all, had deacons, and that was something that I thought we should look at, and we have, and I'm grateful for your generosity and your freedom in making yourselves available to those parishes that don't have deacons, because one of the reasons for restoring the diaconate is precisely to restore the fullness of holy orders, not only at the diaconate level, but also at the episcopal level. Before the council, it was much disputed whether or not episcopacy was part of the sacrament of orders. With Aquinas, the sacrament of orders was the authority from Christ to celebrate the Eucharist, to be a sacrificing priest in the New Testament, in the New Covenant. And beyond ordained priesthood, there wasn't any other order. That, of course, was something that didn't sit easily ever in the church, but nonetheless, it was the emphasis. A priest is someone who offers Mass, which, of course, is true. He's not just a minister of the Word. He is incorporated into Christ's sacrifice as head of his church, and therefore he has the authority to govern the church. But he gets that authority in and through the bishop, as the council pointed out. And so after the council, we don't talk about consecrating bishops anymore, we talk about ordaining bishops. There was a reason for that change in terminology. But it meant also that if people were to realize that the sacrament of holy orders is more expansive than they had been led to believe, or they did believe before the council, it had to be visible. And so I was concerned that, particularly because we had so many deacons, that the diaconate be visible, as is the presbyterate in the parishes and various works of the archdiocese. So I look forward to working with you, and I am grateful for the cooperation I received in doing that, so that people now visualize the sacrament of holy orders as deacon, priest, bishop. I had to use the auxiliaries as vicars in a more expanded way also, so that they would realize that bishops are not just priests who have powers of jurisdiction, but rather are pastors. And the vicars in each of the vicariates, the episcopal vicars, the bishops who are vicars, are supposed to be truly pastors, present to the parishes, present to the people and to the priests in ways that a pastor would be, to make the episcopal pastorate present. And I think that has worked out fairly well too. It's helped me, certainly. I haven't had to rely upon my own judgment to understand a lot of difficult situations. I knew I could call the vicar and say what's going on, and he would be able to tell me. So we've got then, I think, the full expanse of the sacrament of holy orders very well established, or at least very visible, in the archdiocese: bishops, priests, deacons. One of the dimensions of the diaconate is service of the altar. And what I did notice early on, and I talked to Father Salmon at the time, was that there was a wide divergence in the deacons' understanding of their liturgical role. Some did it one way, some did it another way, some didn't do it at all, a few. because somehow they had the idea that deacons were not ordained for service at the altar, but only for service of the world and of the poor, which we are, everybody is, but by baptism. But nonetheless, the liturgy of the Mass and the service of the Word in that is part of a deacon's role. And so that was the first move, I think, a particular move that I made vis-a-vis the deacon community, was to ask to review the liturgical preparation you had received. And that was done very quickly and very efficiently. And I was very grateful for that. So that now when I appear on the altar with deacons, and I always try to do that, again, visibility, I know what they're going to do. And he knows what I'm going to do too. I mean, we have the liturgical instructions, the rubrics in the liturgical books, and if everybody follows them, then we don't have to negotiate as we go through a ceremony, and it works very well. We just all know our parts, and it fits together very well when that happens. It's very smooth, and the liturgies in the archdiocese, I think, are splendidly done for the most part, and when I go around, I'm very pleased. The second dimension that came to my attention was brought to me by a good number of deacons who said that the Chicago diaconate, more than in many places, was concerned about justice issues. That didn't surprise me, because I think the Archdiocese of Chicago, more than many local churches, is always been concerned about social justice and care of the poor. It's in our DNA. I expected that. The thing is, it's in our DNA, first of all, because we're baptized. The conversion of the world is the work of the baptized, not of the priests, nor of deacons, nor of bishops, without the laity. And so it has to be more specific than that, particularly in proximity to the poor. And the initiatives that have been taken with Zacchaeus House, with so many others like that, have shown me a diaconate that is eager not only to help the poor in a philanthropic sense, but to be with them and to know them and to be personally involved with them. And there's incident after incident. Most of them I don't know, you do, which indicate to me that the care of the poor is very much at the heart of the diaconate here. And very often it is the women who draw our attention to those who might otherwise be overlooked. And I find that true in the Archdiocesan Women's Committee, and I'm sure it's true in the deacon community too. So that is an issue that is strong here, for which I'm very grateful. The care of the poor, particularly as a dimension of diaconal ministry, although it's rooted as such in the same baptism that means that everybody is responsible for the evangelization, the conversion of the world. The third point that I was concerned about with the diaconate after I got here was the formation. This primarily because the formation personnel, or the formation directory rather, was coming out, and we had to implement it. But it also was something that was a part of my own concern, that is the formation of all personnel who are responsible for others in the church. We've had people ordained priests who shouldn't have been, and maybe some deacons who shouldn't have been, and maybe some bishops. The point is, if you're going to put people in charge of other people, you better know who they are. And you better be able to trust them, because that's what we do. When we put somebody before a group, we say, here's a trustworthy person. And so in the formation program, there to be a lot more attention paid to the formation of, from a personnel perspective, and not just in the knowledge necessary to preach and the rest. That, of course, fits in with my own general conviction that I came with, and that is that in a period of time in history when there is some institutional decline in the church because we're a secularizing society, you have to spend more attention on people, because people last forever, even though institutions come and go and change. So when you have some institutional decline, we've had some, and that will probably be a tendency that will stay with the church, I suppose, up to a point anyway, then more than ever you have to pay attention to the personnel. And so we reformed the seminaries, we reformed the deacon formation program, we reformed the lay ministry program, we reformed the catechetical program, the catechists are differently trained. We reformed the liturgical program. We've reformed all the programs that are designed to help people help others to know the Lord. And so the reform of deacon formation was a part of that. And then finally, the last point is administrative, and that was to see to it that the vicar for deacons himself be a deacon. And that, of course, has happened, and I'm very grateful to Father Mike for serving in that capacity for a long time, and then for handing it over so gracefully to Deacon Hutzik, who I think has done a superb job, and to whom I'm very, very grateful. As I am grateful to all of you, I truly am. I felt supported and encouraged by you in these 17 years. I could not have functioned here as Archbishop without your help, and know that this may be the last time I'm before you publicly, at least as your Archbishop. And I'm not sure what my health will be like as the months go forward. But at least hear this, if nothing else, that I am extraordinarily grateful. I'm grateful most of all now for your prayers. And they sustain me as they've sustained me in my ministry. And I'm encouraged by them. And so I have you before the Lord in turn. And that is certainly something that will remain. We'll remain together in prayer. So I thank you very much, and I would be willing to spend a half hour or so, if we have it, or a little less, in the questions and answers that you might have at this time. You do the questions, I'll do the answers. Maybe. Sometimes I have the questions, but okay? Okay. Thank you.